Okay, very good evening to the distinguished panelist and the distinguished moderator and the office bearers of the Alumni Association of University of Moratuwa and the other participants, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me extend my sincere gratitude to the Alumni Association of University of Moratuwa for inviting me for this webinar on the theme Short and Medium Term Solutions for the Power Crisis in Sri Lanka. I'm privileged to be with a distinguished panelist and a distinguished moderator. I hope all the panelists will try to contribute to find some short and medium term solutions for the power crisis in Sri Lanka. My presentation will focus on these topics: the current challenges faced in the power sector and reasons, short-term solutions for the challenges in the power sector, medium-term solutions for the challenges in power sector, and the conclusion. I firmly believe that we have to really identify the current challenges faced in the power sector in order to find short-term solutions and the medium-term solutions. Now let us see the current challenges faced in the power sector and the reasons. There are many challenges faced in the power sector at present. The ongoing demand management program, we say power cuts, is a huge challenge. It's a challenge for the public, challenge for the customers, challenge for the utilities, and challenge for the economy of this country, and challenge for everybody. Then the adverse financial position in CEB is a challenge. Some of you may not be aware, I will detail it out. And that is also a huge challenge for the CEB as well as for the country. Then there are many other challenges like difficulties in procuring oil and coal for power generation, difficulties in procuring spare parts, maintenance material for new connections, system development works, then challenges in implementation of renewable power projects, and challenges in implementation of ongoing transmission and development projects due to various reasons, and also challenging in financing future transmission and development projects. So there are many challenges faced by the power sector at this moment of time. I will take a few things in detail. The first is the ongoing demand management program and the reasons. If you look back last 4 or 5 years, we had power cuts in 2016. That was for almost a month, 1.5 months, 1 to 5 hours. Then 2017, we had only 5 days. 2019, we had almost 1 month for about 3 hours. And 2021, the December, we had power cuts for about 1 month. But 2022 is really challenging. So January, we had about 1 hour power cuts, and the February 3 to 4. And the March 3 to 12, I think April, you all can remember, some days it went to 14, and it was between 3 and 14. Last 2 months, May and June, it's about 2.5 to 3 hours. So this is what we saw in the recent past in the demand management program. This has caused enormous difficulties to the people of this country. So what are the reasons for this demand management program? This demand management program of the power cuts are different to other occasions of demand management. In the previous occasions, we had power cuts, especially because of the capacity limitations. But this time it is different. This time there were some other reasons as well, like the disturbance of fuel supply. Disturbance of fuel supply caused huge problems. The CEB could not run their power plants due to insufficient supply of fuel from the CPC. Then there were dollar issues. So dollar issues also new to this country. We did not experience dollar issues and the fuel issues in the previous power cuts. Previous power cuts are mainly because of the insufficient capacity to meet the demand. So this time it is more complex because the management of oil supply and management of dollars. So those things also added. Because of insufficient supply of oil, we had to limit our generation capacities, and that has caused demand management programs or the power cuts. So there has been power capacity crisis due to dry weather as well. In the first few months of the year, it was dry months, and so we had difficulties in the capacity as well. So that also experienced on top of the oil crisis, oil supply crisis and the dollar crisis. The financial crisis in CEB also contributed for this, because CEB did not have adequate financial resources to buy fuel and buy various other things. So there had been delays of procuring oil and various other things due to financial situation in CEB. So these are the reasons for the ongoing demand management program introduced by the CEB to meet the demand of the country. Now let us see the adverse financial position in CEB and the reasons. You can see this chart. This is the financial position of CEB from 2013 to 2022. You can see there had been profits in 2013, but 14 it was again a shortfall, and 15 was a profit, and then 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21, all years there had been a gap between the revenue and the expenditure. So 2020 it was 69 billion. 2021 was a very wet year. We had a lot of rainfall. Because of that, our deficit was less. It is 21 billion. But alarming is the 2022 budgeted value. 2022 budgeted value is 591 billion deficit. It is enormous amount of money, because from 2013 to 2021 it was in some region like 2019, 28 there was 85, but 2022 forecast is 591 billion negative. And this chart shows the average cost of selling point and the average selling price. So average selling price had been more or less constant, because we have not changed the tariff for almost 9 years. So average selling price was constant somewhere there in 16, 26 and so on. But the average cost, so average cost varied from 17 to 24 and so on. But the average cost in 2021 was only 1863 because of the high rainfall we received in catchment areas. But the forecast for this year is 54 rupees and 78 will be the average cost at the selling point. So this is alarming. This price is alarming. So that is an area that we have to really focus and to understand and try to find solutions for that. And how this comes, and this is what our finance director had done the studies, and this is based on assuming that there won't be any power cuts for the next 6-7 months, so that we have forecasted the requirement of generation from various sources and then calculated the cost. So the cost at the selling point for this year, or the CEB cost, will be 868 billion rupees. Whereas our income would be somewhere around 277 billion. So approximately the gap is 600 billion rupees. So the unit cost, actual unit cost will be about 54 rupees, whereas our income or the average selling price will be about 1665. So there is a huge gap between the selling price and the cost. So that is alarming. This 868 billion of expenditure of CEB for this year is alarming, and a gap of 600 billion is alarming. So I think we all have to find solutions how to meet this gap and how to reduce the cost of generation. You can see out of this 868 billion total cost, 729 billion is for generation. So almost 84% of the cost will go for power generation. You can see other sectors like transmission, distribution are much less. Transmission is only 12 billion, and distribution, all 4 divisions, would be about 76 billion, and corporate 10 billion, and financial cost 40 billion. So the generation cost is the biggest cost. It is about 729 billion. So in addition to these differences or the deficits in the P&L, CEB has debt, accumulated debt for lenders, banks, and the debentures are about 446 billion. In addition to that, the accumulated debt for IPPs, non-conventional renewable energy, and the solar are about 80 billion rupees. The coal procurement, still some payments have to be made. It is 27 billion. Then some LC is open, but the payments are due, and the taxes, that is about 60 billion. So this is altogether about 613 billion. This 446 billion will go to the balance sheet, and others will be in the P&L, and we have to meet those costs along with our income. So this is the financial situation of the CEB, and how we have forecasted the cost for this particular year. So what are the reasons for this adverse financial position in CEB? One is dollar devaluation, because dollar was 202 and now about 370. It's almost 100% devaluation. Our material and also our oil, our coal, most of the things are imported. About 80% of the things that we use in CEB are imported. Once the dollar is devalued drastically by about 100%, our cost will be doubled. So that is one of the reasons for high expenditure in the year 2022. And the fuel prices increased significantly. Our furnace oil was about 70 rupees per liter. Now it is about 368. Diesel was about 111. Now it is 400 rupees per liter. And also coal prices. Coal prices in the world market increased significantly. Coal prices about a ton was about $80 recently, and now a ton is about $300 to $320. And also delay in tariff revisions also caused, because our revenue was constant for almost 9 years, so we did not get adequate money, adequate generation, cash generation to meet the cost. And year 2022 is a less hydro year, that also will impact the cost of the power generation. And also delay in constructing efficient thermal power plants has also caused certain cost, because sometimes CEB runs inefficient power plants. Those are very costly. So if we had good efficient power plants, our cost would have been lesser. So this chart will show you the cost differences. Auto diesel 111 and now 400. This is just before the last revision. Last revision, this has increased further. Furnace oil 70, we were receiving at 70, now 369. Naphtha 74, now 383. And the coal prices were, this is per kilogram, about 14, now 80. And the exchange rate was 202, now 365. So I think when you look at these charts, you will see how the impact of all these things in the CEB's P&L. So that is why the expenditure for this year, 2022, would be 868 billion rupees. As I said before, we have not received tariff increases for the last 9 years. In fact, in the year 2014, we reduced the tariff by 25%. After that, there was no tariff revision. So that is also cause revenue deficit, insufficient revenue, because the cost escalated during that period, but we have not received any tariff revisions for 9 years period. And this chart also gives some indication how we give electricity to our customers. There are 1.3 million customers whose electricity bill per month is still 60 rupees or less. 60 rupees or less. So we power a house, rural house, for 1 month for 60 rupees, whereas 1 liter of petrol is now 500. Another 1.6 million customers' monthly electricity bill is less than 224. So these are the present tariff. So we give electricity to the poor people of this country at very, very, very reasonable prices. So these prices and the cost are far apart. So this is just I show you to see where we are. Almost 3 million customers' electricity bills are less than 224 per month even today. So that is the tariff, existing tariff present today. And when you look at the cost of different sectors, the tariff and the cost of supply, domestic averaging 14, now the actual cost will be about 54. Religious 730, and the general purpose 23, and government 18, and industrial 14, and hotel 17, and LECO 16. This is the current tariff, but the actual costs are somewhere in 55 rupees. Our tariff, when we convert it to US cents now, it is perhaps the lowest in the world. Our domestic tariff is much, much less compared with the other countries because of the dollar devaluation happened recently. Even the industrial tariff is far below, perhaps the lowest in the world, because of the dollar devaluation. In US cents, our tariffs have come down drastically. And the commercial also somewhere there, it's also in the lower category. And this year, our predicted dispatch, that also will have impact to the cost. since this is a dry year, our predicted dispatch will have more fossil fuel generation. It will be approximately 60% fossil fuel generation and about 40% renewables. It's also sizable renewable, 40%. It is from hydro, and the roof solar is about 5%, ground solar 1%, mini hydro 7%, and wind 4%. So it's approximately 40%. This is the forecasted energy mix for this year. So this also will cause huge financial impact for the P&L of the CEB. This is 2021. So 2021, I told you that it is a very wet year. So 51% of the electrical energy generation we did from renewable energies. That's significant. It's only 49% from fossil fuel. So that is a very, very good year. And our renewable contribution was about 51%. This is last year. Now we will see how the world averages are. This is 2021. When you look at the total world average of electricity generation, it is 26% is generated from renewable sources, and 10% from nuclear, and 63.3% from fossil fuel. So when you compare with the world averages, we are far above, because in the 2021, our fossil fuel was only 49%. Even this year, it will be somewhere around 60%. So the renewable contribution, the world average is about 26%, but our contribution is definitely above 40%. 40 to 50% variation is there, but by 2030 we wanted to reach 70% of renewable energy targets. I told you and I explained you, delay in constructing efficient thermal power plants also caused additional cost. You can see from 2014 onwards, after the commissioning of the third machine of Norachole power plant, we did not have a single large power plant. So therefore, we had to run inefficient power plants. So therefore, the costs have gone up in these power plants. So you can see the capacities have not increased for the last 5 to 6 years, and there wasn't a single large-scale power plant constructed in the country during these periods. But we added renewable energy. But we added was mainly renewable energy. 2020, we added 131 megawatts of renewable energy. So that has a huge roof solar contribution as well. 2021 was a good year. We added 284 megawatts of renewable energy. Our forecast for this year is about 330 megawatts of renewable energy, because we are going to commission the Broadlands, already commissioned Broadlands and the Umaoya. So with that, and with about 150 megawatts of roof solar, we are planning to reach 330. So our renewable additions were reasonably good. Somebody can say it's not enough, okay, but it is reasonably good, and these 3 years we have added significant amount of renewable energy to the national grid. So this is the success story led by few organizations. This is the roof solar. The roof solar, now we have about 615 megawatts of roof solar. So that's a great achievement. Our day peak is around 2000 megawatts, but the roof solar itself is about 615 megawatts. This is LECO and CEB together. If you take only the CEB, it is about 507 megawatts of roof solar is connected by the CEB. So this program is really led by CEB, the roof solar program, together with Lanka Electricity Company and the Sustainable Energy Authority. Actually, the leaders or the pioneers of this roof solar program are here. Actually, I can remember in the year 2008 when we wanted to launch the net metering system. I pushed it very hard, and Dr. Tirak Sembalapitiya was the chairman of the committee, and also I think there were other members. Not Harsha, actually, the Damita was there in the initial program in 2008. So 2008 we launched the program for net metering, and 2016 we introduced new business models, net accounting and the net metering. Actually, that committee also represented by myself, and then again Harsha was there, and Damita was also there. So actually we are the pioneers of promoting roof solar in Sri Lanka. So we started a few years ago and promoted and now we have reached significant levels of roof solar. So this is a very good sign and very good ambitious program that we launched, and CEB contributed immensely to enhance the capacities of roof solar. So this is the scenario now. CEB has 507 megawatts, LECO has 108, and there are ground mounted solar 104. Now the total solar capacity in the country is 719 megawatts and producing about 1000 gigawatt hours annually. So this is significant when you compare with the day load of 2000 megawatts. So this contribution is immense, so led by the CEB and the other organizations. And what are the direct impacts due to financial crisis? So difficulty in procuring oil and coal, difficulties in procuring spare parts, maintenance material for new connections, system development works, delay in payments for private power producers. So private power producers are waiting for the payment. IPP payments are 62 billion rupees. We have to pay 62 billion for the IPP producers, that is for the thermal power plants, and for the renewables we have to pay 23 billion rupees. So delay in payments for private power producers has caused enormous problems for them. So they are facing huge difficulties of managing their power plants, small power plants, because of not paying their due payments by the CEB. Perhaps the last we paid was last August bills, and after that CEB could not pay the bills because there wasn't enough money to go ahead with that. So that is a significant problem. So there are so many other problems due to financial crisis, but these are some of the things. So let's see the other challenges faced by the power sector. Challenges in implementation of renewable power projects. There are a lot of challenges faced because these contracts were signed before the economic crisis. Now most of these developers cannot complete the power projects at the given the signed prices. There are a lot of problems. So we have to look for solutions for each and every problem of renewable power project. They are facing huge difficulties, and many are not signing PPAs because PPAs are not guaranteed their revenue streams now. So that is a huge problem faced by the sector. And the poor investor confidence. When the CEB's bottom line is not healthy, investors will not look at investments for this sector. So those are real problems. Then the donor assistance, if Priyantha was here, he would explain the ADB's support will not be for the future transmission and development, transmission and distribution projects. So we will be facing a lot of problems in getting donor assistance. Therefore, even the ongoing transmission and development project completion has faced huge challenges, and also the future transmission and development projects as well. Now these are the challenges, so many challenges, and challenges in meeting the demand and giving 24 hours power supply, and huge challenges in the financial sector. And there are many other challenges which I explained. Now we will see what we can do for the short-term solutions and the medium-term solutions. The short-term solutions are expediting renewable energy projects and integrating maximum amount of renewable energy into the grid as fast as possible. So this should be done as fast as possible, because this will help to reduce the generation cost. So this expediting renewables is very important. The second one is the demand management, fuel management, capacity management, tariff management, subsidies management, and the financial management. These cannot be taken independently. All are linked together. So therefore we have to sit together and decide on all these aspects to determine the outcome. So that is also a challenging task. And the other thing is demand side management. I will quickly go through how to expedite the renewable energy. So the most important thing to promote is the solar rooftop, because that is the fastest. So definitely we have to give a new feed-in tariff. The 22 rupees is not sufficient. Perhaps we have to look for a region of 30-35 rupees. And also the capacity restrictions. Now CEB decided to remove any capacity restrictions, and it will be done within a week or two, and so that the capacities can be improved. So therefore the promotion of roof solar is extremely important to get the generation cost reduced. And also the other ones, other wind power plants, solar power plants, and whatever, all the other renewables. So renewable energy development map is now produced, and now we have to finalize the business models. Business models are more flexible after the exchange. Therefore, what we should do is we should try hard to get at least 1,200 megawatts of renewable energy by 2026. That does not need that much of transmission development. The existing transmission network and the distribution network can take care of about 1,200 megawatt by 2026. Those are the low-hanging fruits. So what we should do is we should try hard to get this 1,200 megawatts of renewables by 2026 without improving the transmission and the distribution networks. Also providing solutions for the ongoing renewable projects. So that is very important. You have to take one by one and give the support to the developers, because that is required to get those renewable producers online. And this is the other short-term solution. So this is very important and very critical, because demand management cannot be determined without knowing the availability of fuel, without knowing the availability of coal, without knowing the availability of foreign currency. And the capacity management cannot be decided without knowing the fuel capacity and the coal capacity. And without knowing the tariff, we cannot determine the demand management, because the tariff has a huge impact to meet the cost. And without knowing the subsidies, we should know how to fix the tariff, because subsidies are coming from the treasury. So without managing the whole thing together, we cannot determine what we should do for the next few months. It is very, very important. What should be the demand management program for next few months? Because if we are too comfortable in these days, then sometimes we may feel shocks in time to come. Therefore, the top people of these institutions, CEB itself cannot do that. CEB, the ministry, the treasury, the central bank, and the cabinet of ministers all sit together in one table and to decide the future of this country's fuel situation. Whether we have money to buy coal, $600 million is required for the next season of coal buying. Whether we have foreign currency, whether we get how much tariff increase we get, whether the treasury has enough money to meet the subsidies and so on. So when we put all these things, only we can decide what we should do for next few months or next 6 months. So it is not a single decision by one party. Everybody has to get together, sit and face the realities, face the cost of power generation, and determine what we should do. So it's a very complex thing. I think we should all agencies should sit together and decide this one. So this is what I explained before. It's 868 billion expenditure. The Inland Revenue Department's total envisaged income for this year is 860 billion rupees. CEB's expenditure itself is 868 billion if we go without power cuts. So there is a huge critical problem. I think everybody has to decide and sit and decide what we should do. When you look at the total cost, 84% of the total cost, out of the total cost is generation cost, 729 billion. All the other costs are less. Other costs are only about 140 billion. And if you see the subsidy requirement, domestic sector, if we are going with the present tariff, domestic sector requires 194 billion subsidy. Industrial sector requires 175 billion subsidy. So altogether, about 600 billion subsidies required if we don't change the tariff. So it's enormous amount. So the CEB cannot bear that amount, the banks cannot bear that amount, the treasury cannot bear that amount. It's large amount of money. So I think all the top decision makers from central bank downwards, everybody should sit and decide what we should do for the next few months without going for shocks. Now we are in a shock for petrol and the diesel because of various reasons. So we should not give the shocks to our customers. Therefore, everybody should sit and decide on the future of demand management program. Yeah, so I will finish, and then the other medium-term solutions I am not explaining. I will just read. So we have to expedite the construction of 350 megawatt power plants in Kerawalapitiya and the 105 megawatt gas turbine in Kalatissa. We have to expedite the LNG deployment to the power sector, expedite the ongoing transmission and distribution projects. Then we have the implementation of preliminary works of future transmission and distribution works. Even though we do not have multilateral financing, we can do the planning part of it and the land acquisition and so on. That is also very important. Then this process re-engineering of CEB and the Lanka Electricity Company and the digital transformation are very important to put the house right. Put the house of CEB and house of the LECO right. We have to do a lot of work on the business process engineering and the digital transformation. And the structural reforms are required and necessary. So we should think about, brainstorm what kind of structural reforms are required for CEB and LECO. and to determine and decide. So those are the medium-term solutions that I envisage. In conclusion, the sector is facing huge, enormous challenges. Challenges are on the demand management. People are suffering because of power cuts and so on. And CEB's financial position is really challenging now. And it's 868 billion and deficit of approximately 600 billion. Then we all should sit together and to decide what we should do. But to get this generation cost reduced, I think we should promote renewables as much as possible, especially solar power, wind power, and various other schemes should produce, and then that will bring some cushion to the generation cost. But that is not enough, because we require the fossil-based power also to manage our systems, manage our demand, manage our stability, and so on. Therefore, there will be a cost. Then how to manage this cost is the question for the CEB, question for the ministry, question for the central bank, question for the treasury, and question for the cabinet of ministers. One party cannot decide what we should do. It's so complex. Therefore, I think quickly everybody should sit and decide what we should do for the future. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much to our audience. Thank you for your patience, and please keep your questions coming in the Q&A. We will have a very interesting Q&A session at the end of these presentations. So I will hand over to Visakha to invite Professor Priyantha Wijayatunga to make his keynote address, and thereafter we will get back to